Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In today's forecast, we're going to be talking about what you can expect for the last part of July and into early August, especially areas that are likely going to be dealing with heat as well as severe weather. So I have all that information right here. Let's jump right in. Taking a look at our precipitation trends for the next week or so. Taking a look here, you can see a cold front continues to move southeastward, and this is a pattern changer, folks. We have a lot of dry air fluctuating inward behind this front, so it's very comfortable behind the front, but we do have chances of showers and thunderstorms ahead of that front, and that will continue throughout the rest of the day today. Going into our daytime hours tomorrow, a very windy day and very rainy day is expected up here into Canada. I just wanted to point that out, 986 millibar low. We could have some very strong wind gusts up there tomorrow. Pretty dry and quiet across the United States here. You can see a big patch of dry air, especially across the northern United States, as well as the Great Plains region, as well as the Great Lakes. The only area I'm watching for the potential for flooding, rainfall, and severe weather is down here, perhaps in the southeast, but severe weather will be on the very marginal side. Basically what we've been seeing recently. Going into our Saturday the 27th, notice that our next storm system begins to come out of Canada. Likely associated with some sort of frontal boundary, could potentially produce the threat for some severe weather, maybe in some scattered fashion across portions of northern plains. Down here, any of this activity could potentially be on the tropical side, especially if a couple lows develop embedded in that. So we're going to need to monitor that as we go into that time frame. Going into our Sunday the 28th, a lot of that moisture continues to surge northward here. Some severe weather would be possible in this region, but the primary area of severe weather will be here on Sunday, as well as going into Monday. As you can see, we have a lot of moisture attached ahead of this frontal boundary here. And again, cooler air is ushering in behind that, along with very high pressure. And that will likely be the weather pattern dominator beyond this here. And as you can see, Tuesday, a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity. Pretty much the same as we were seeing this past couple days. Those afternoon pop-up showers and thunderstorms you can get. Any of these storms could be on the strong to severe side because of how much moisture and instability we're yanking up from both the Gulf of Mexico as well as the Atlantic Basin, with a couple warm fronts that might lift. So we're going to need to monitor that. But what concerns me is that as we go into late week, it appears that a high pressure system is going to set up the stage across the southern United States, and we're likely going to get a northwest flow pretty much over top that ridge. And as you can see here, this is showing the complex of storms developing in Wisconsin, northern Illinois, that could potentially produce an MCS or potentially what we call a derecho. And if that happens, we would likely have a huge severe weather threat from this area to this area as we go into late next week. Very uncertain as of right now, but it's definitely a very concerning look to the setup here, especially as we go into Friday too. Look at that MCS looking setup across portions of the Ohio Valley there, with some more lingering showers down here in portions of the Gulf of Mexico. Again, watching any of those systems that try to go off of the coast could potentially go somewhat tropical, so we're going to need to watch that as we head in towards the coming days. Showers and thunderstorms will likely continue in towards the first half of August. Now, taking a look at our 500 millibar pressure anomalies here, basically the blues are areas of low pressure and troughiness, and reds are areas of high pressure here. And you can see as we go in towards this evening, look at that big omega block centered over portions of the southern United States as well as all the way up in towards Canada. That should keep the weather pattern very quiet for today. You saw in the precipitation that we really didn't have much, but you can see that trough is going to eject over portions of southern Ontario. Just wanted to point this out. It's going to be very, very windy up here, like I said, on the precipitation model. So please make sure to take advice of that and make sure you prepare for gusty winds up there. Any of those gusty winds will be sub-severe, but as you can see, look at that ridge building over the eastern United States as we go in towards the weekend. That could potentially set up a potential heat wave across portions of the East Coast, especially over here where we get a lot of moisture, but it's also possible all along the East Coast, so we'll need to watch that. Going into late this weekend here, Sunday the 18th, Sunday the 28th, notice that we get a little bit of a cool down to start happening over here in the western United States, at least cooler air aloft. We'll likely have some of that going to the surface as well. But Monday, this is when our next weather pattern will develop here, where we get that dominant ridge over the southern United States with the northwest flow over top of that. And that's going to, like I said, be concerning for those storm complexes that form in the Dakotas and then ride down into Illinois, Indiana, and potentially Ohio. All right, so this is your time frame, and this is your MCS path potential as we go in towards the end of the month into early July or August here. I keep wanting to say July, even though we're headed out of it here. But notice that potential derecho pattern continues as far into the model running as the first day of August here, and you can see, look at that ridge is being nudged eastward. There's your northwest flow. Remember, storm complexes like to develop and then go down the ridge from the Dakotas back in towards Ohio. That is what we're going to be seeing potentially. And areas that haven't seen much severe weather could potentially get some out of this big setup here. And then it appears by August 2nd, this dominant ridge will continue to have a northwest flow into portions of this region, and potentially adding on to that, we could potentially get a little bit of a cold front. Notice that little bit of a trough tries to perhaps develop there. It's so invisible. It's like it's very weak. All right, that's how weak it is. It's not even showing on the map here, but you can just see the little bitty trough by that little circle region there, and you can see it is a little bit of a positive tilt. So it's not going to be like a big severe weather event from this. It would likely just be mainly still mesoscale driven, but still please watch out in this region as we head in towards the first couple days of August, because we could potentially get some pretty dangerous storms in the Ohio Valley as we head in towards that time frame. Going in towards next weekend, things very uncertain. However, it appears this ridge appears to stay in place, potentially with yet another northwest flow potentially taking place. So maybe some storm complexes for the Dakotas down to Missouri. That'll be a new one. But we still have time to for things to change. So make sure you're staying tuned to the weather apps, and make sure you're staying tuned to your local news stations, and make sure you're staying tuned to NOAA weather radios as well. All right, everybody, now let's take a look at our total precip across the United States all the way from now to August 3rd, and notice that we have pretty much a big swath of probably about 2 or higher inches of rain here across portions of the Gulf of Mexico in towards the upper Ohio Valley region. And notice we are very dry over here in the western United States, aside from a little bit on the higher terrains where we might get a couple showers and thunderstorms, but really nothing too out of the ordinary there. Maybe some monsoonal moisture going on over there, but really nothing much out of the ordinary here. That high pressure system, there's a big hole right here pretty much. That's where that high pressure system will be dominating here. And then look at this. I wanted to point out that track potentially for storm complex is set up here, and you can see that as you take a look at the precipitation totals here, because you can see it prints out that path of where the heaviest rainfall could be and where those heaviest storms could be. Now down here, we have so much rain by this time frame because of how much tropical moisture will be feeding in to these areas. So I can't stress that enough. We will likely have some flooding concerns down here, especially as we head in towards the late part of this month into the last few days, as well as into early August. So make sure you're staying weather aware anywhere you are in this circle region, either for flooding or the potential for frequent severe weather events. All right, everybody, now it's time to take a look at our surface temperatures across the United States today. So this afternoon, notice that by the time we go in towards 2 p.m. EDT, 1 CDT, notice that we have a widespread 90 and 100 degree temperatures across these regions here. This is just the beginning of that heat wave we're talking about. And down here, this is very typical heat for this time of year. But notice as we go in towards tomorrow too, that the heat is not that intense over here in the west, but rather in the central and northern plains. That is because that high pressure system will begin to start moving into where those hotter temperatures are. All right, so that's why we see a huge swath of 90 to 100 degree temperatures there, with perhaps some cooler temperatures over here in a portion of the Great Lakes where they'll be on the northern periphery of that ridge, again, where you can get those storm complexes. But as we go into early next week, notice that we get the intense heat back, and we're in the triple digits almost, if not the high 90s, widespread throughout much, if not all, of the southern and central plains. And then going into Tuesday, that continues to spread northward. You can see a lot of 90s and triple digits on the map right here, while we're still keeping our cool over here in the eastern United States. That is because that heat dome is not going to make it that far east yet. But look at this. On the last day of July, this might not be exactly the temperatures we see, but look at this. You can kind of get the hint that this heat dome that is going to be setting up is going to be very highly intense. And you can see here, you could probably tell where the center of that high pressure system is. Definitely seeing those mid triple digit degree temperatures, those 105s, those 103s, those 102s, those 100s. And you could also see some 90s there, but still it's going to be very hot regardless of where you are in the circle region as we go in towards the middle and late part of next week. And going in towards next week here, or late next week here, in towards next weekend, that heat dome is just continuing to spray heat and very humid conditions across these regions here. So we will probably have pop-up showers and thunderstorms. I just don't know where they'll be yet. They're going to be scattered about. But then as we go in towards the end of the model run, still keeping our cool on the East Coast. And that's why we got to watch for those storm complexes. But while we're still seeing the big heat and the humidity over here in the central, southern, and northern plains. Now let's take a look at our National Hurricane Center outlook here across the Atlantic Basin. As you can see, the tropics are still remaining quiet. The European model definitely showed something concerning yesterday where it showed a hurricane potentially over and north of the Caribbean. But today, the European model has backed off on that. So let's hope that solution stays apparent as we go into that time frame. But regardless, it appears tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days. So nothing to lose sleep over. We just need to watch any of those waves that come off the coasts of the Gulf and the Atlantic. All right, everybody. Now I have put together late July and early August weather outlook for the entire United States. And you can see here, over here, I'm going to start from west to east. You can see here cooler and rainy for areas of the Pacific Northwest there. So you'll likely get frequent systems that come through and produce showers and thunderstorms for your area. But not really much in the terms of severe weather or heat. Pretty much a cooler rest of July and into early August for you. And in this shade right here, we have the active jet stream over here in portions of the California region, Nevada, getting up into Utah and then Wyoming and then getting up into Montana. And that just basically shows that that jet stream will be going over that heat dome there. And speaking of a heat dome, notice that this shade is the heat wave that we were talking about pretty much the whole video here. And you can see that that will be dominating pretty much the rest of the summer, if not the rest of the summer across that entire region there. And then as you go into this pink shade, this is where you start talking about those MCS storm complexes, as well as potentially derechos. And that's why I have a question mark at the end of that, because derechos are highly rare. However, MCSs are likely in this region, so please be watching for severe weather and damaging winds over there in the portions of that pink region. As we go in towards that time frame, notice that it will be dry and hot in the northeast. And down here in the southeast, likewise, as we've been seeing, I'm expecting a lot of tropical moisture, potentially with a few thunderstorms. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That was all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're not already. Make sure you stay safe, even if you're not in the heat and severe weather shades. Make sure you stay safe as we head in towards the late part of this month and into early August. I will have more updates for you going into that time frame of severe weather and the heat. But for now, have a great rest of your day, everybody.